Hey, everybody. Welcome to LiveLARGE Universe. John Farian is here with you one more time on another Sunday night. So come on in, everybody. Come on in. The water is fine. It's summertime. It is like mid-August. Here we are. So here's the part of the year I can't quite get my head wrapped around. It's only been about 6 weeks since my last snowmobile ride. So is it like, still summertime? Or is now mid-August mean it's almost snowmobile time? Because guess what, guys? My head is already ready for heydays, snow shows, snowmobile club. I've already had snowmobile club meetings. I've had board meetings with the Avalanche centers. Been having Avalanche Alliance meetings. There's some big news coming up this year on Avalanche Alliance too. So I don't think I had more than 3 or 4 weeks off of not having to think about snowmobiling before I dove right back into it again. So all of you guys who are here watching right now, come on in. Come on in. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. That is your job as the viewers right now. Get in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from and maybe what you did today. Let us know what you got going on this weekend. Myself, Edith, and I, we were out living large in the Jeeps. So we were Jeeping all weekend with some amazing friends. Got to do some amazing things and had a blast. So as you guys come in again, drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And while you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mountain Lab. Mountain Lab is one of the show sponsors. Amazing company. They've got all the gadgets that you need in your tunnel bag. Tia Smith is here from Santa Barbara. Appreciate you, Tia. You are so awesome. I appreciate you always being here. Mr. Rick Schersel, how are you today, sir, from Altitude Sickness? Appreciate you popping in and saying hi to myself and my good buddy, Mr. Kyle P. Frankland, who's with us tonight. So Ron Dempsey from way up in McMurray, Alberta. Canada's in the house. So keep coming in, guys. Everybody who's here, let us know in the comments. Oh my gosh, here's a first. I must have guilted him into it. My son, John J. Farian, is in the comments right now watching from 2 doors down the hallway. John, I'm grateful for you watching tonight. Love you guys. Everybody in the comments, tell John how excited you are to have him here tonight and watching the show with all of you guys. Got Brett Wolf from Alma, Colorado. Anyway, Mountain Lab, back to business. Mountain Lab is here. We've got 2 chainsaws, little hand saws, got a brush saw, and got a little actual handheld chainsaw. You can get into this just for sharing the show tonight. Share it on your personal page. Share it on the snowmobile pages, wherever you think it makes sense. Don't get annoying, though. Just share it in the places that make sense. Get in there, share it out, give us a shout out, let everybody know that Kyle P. Franklin is in the house tonight. So, all right, guys, the next order of business. We've got some important announcements to make. So, about a month ago, we launched 2 brand new logos for LiveLARGE University Scholarship Program. So you can go to livelargeitemorder.com. I'll drop that in the comments of the show here in a little while. Probably after the show's done, I'll go back in there and add it in. But again, the website that's always been there, livelargeitemorder.com. Look it up and you'll find these shirts there. So this is the shirt I am wearing tonight, actually. Live life to the fullest. Make the most of every day, make a difference to others. Those 3 things are the foundation of Live Large and what it's all about. So next one, Edith and I were wearing these yesterday, loud and proud. We had our Live Large Jeep shirts on yesterday when we were out on our Jeep adventure and rocking the world. So again, if you're into off-roading of any kind, a great logo that just talks about embrace the adventure, live large, got it. And what's next? So the next one, the original LiveLARGE Universe logo and the Sunshine Edition from Sunshine Rose out of Michigan. Both of those are still on clearance pricing while supplies last on the website as well. So you can get in there and check that out. So Kyle P. Franklin, you can come off mute. We're going to bring you on here in just a second. So in 3, 2, and 1. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good. I'm a little bit tired and swollen on my knee, but I'm doing very well after a weekend of searching.
Wow, were you like a one man in a butt kicking contest and you hurt the knee, or what happened to the knee, buddy?
I had knee replacement from previous snowboarding, lifetime of athleticism injuries. I was bone on bone, and this last winter in I guess February, I kind of jacked it up, and it never didn't want to come back. It was like just a loose socket. It just wanted to fall apart. So finally in June, they got me into surgery on the 21st and
Wow.
replaced it.
Well, take care of yourself, buddy. We don't need you, being all wore out when the snow starts flying. We need you all healed up.
That's a fact. I'm trying. I
You and
certainly
I,
am trying.
yeah, you and I got some snowmobiling to do this year. We can't have you down and out. So, you guys, I have to tell you again, if you haven't already, please share the show out, get the word out, but let us know where you're watching from too. We've got some great viewership coming in. We got a dozen people or more watching live right now, more on their way. But let us know where you're watching from and share it out. Please do that. But I got to tell you guys, Kyle P. Franklin in this episode. This is a very, very, very special episode for me personally. I am so excited to have you on, Kyle, because, man, you have been here almost since day one, maybe since day one. I don't know if my memory is good enough to remember, but I started John Farian Live, which is now Live Large Universe, back in April of 2018. And my memory tells me that you and I started interacting, just like a lot of the folks here in the comments. You were a big fan of the show. You were watching the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Like, you've shared with me a little bit, but I think it'd be great for the audience to hear a little bit of your perspective of when you first saw the show and the topics we talk around avalanche safety and education, trying to help the backcountry snowmobile community become a bigger, better place, build this sense of community that we've built now. When you first came across this, tell me a little bit about your experience and maybe how it's kind of inspired you over the years.
Well, back in the 80s, I worked for an Alpine Skills Institute. They're a mountaineering company who did telemark. And I did pits with them and trained with them on avalanche safety and teaching people about snow and where fractures happen and what to watch out for. So I've always had a big interest in it. And I've been in a bunch of avalanches and I've never had a type experience where I was buried for more than a couple seconds, but I've been 90% buried 3 or 4 times,
Wow.
and I've dug people out and I've rescued a lot of avalanche victims.
Yeah.
Well, I've recovered a bunch of avalanche victims. I I I think I've only recovered a couple alive, and the other ones were deceased. But your show hit me right away, like what's in your pack, and I'm like, I got most of that. I got that. Hey, I should put more of that in there. I should do this,
Yeah.
and that really struck home. And I'm like, I like the way this guy talks. He's down to earth. He's drinking a beer while he's sitting in his basement digging through the thing. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty rad. I'm into this. So I made it a point. It was like the highlight of my week. I'm like, John Farian's coming on, and I'd go watch it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got a
Yeah.
lot of folks here too. I'll just kind of quick shout out. A couple more people have joined us. We've got Michael Grant from Michael, forgive me. Is it Sled TV? You can feel free to drop it in the comments, Michael. The name of your show again too. It slipped my mind at the moment. I apologize for that. Skinner Bella's here. We've got Jan Olhauser here. We got Shannon Cutler. If I'm saying it, I'm probably saying her last name right, but Shortridge.
Yeah.
So we got some people here. Appreciate you guys joining us.
Nice.
Love it, love it, love it. So
All right, you
Kyle,
guys.
let us get to know you a little better. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're down in California, but give us a little bit more about your background and what's going on with you up to this point in time.
Well, I'm living Lake Tahoe. I grew up in a town called Auburn, about 80 miles away or something like that. And I got out of college and started working as a mechanic, and that's what I was trained to do. I spent a couple of years studying,
Yeah,
and I decided that wasn't for me. So I went back to being a skier, snowboarder, and I've never looked back. I do construction in the summer and I snowboard all winter, and it's been my life. I was so addicted to snowboarding that honestly for 35 years, that was all that mattered. Like I get up at 6:30 in the
yeah,
morning, 7 o'clock I'm at the ski hill and setting race courses and on the lift at 1 hour to 2 hours before any public's allowed on the hill. So I that was my life. That's all I did. And when I had kids, it kind of changed and I backed away from it. And I didn't think it was good for me to be coaching my kids. So I tried getting them into programs. My son did a snowboard team for a couple of years, and my daughter just never wanted to be a part of it.
yeah.
And My son didn't have the passion like I did for
Yeah.
snowboarding. I can't get snow out of my blood. I've been up here 40 plus years in the
Yeah.
mountains, and I get sick of it. I love summer. I love spring and fall, but winter really, it's my life, and I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean there's one thing that's going to continue to resonate throughout this show, and it's going to be the word passion, right? Because all the way back to the point when Kyle, you were first getting into, snow sports and snowboarding. Tell us a little bit. Let's go deep dive now into your history as a snowboarder. Like I'm assuming, like everybody else in the world, you tried it the first time just as a recreationalist. But then let's talk about a little bit of the evolution of how you got sucked into the world of snowboarding, from start to finish, and then we'll tip it off when you get to you're ready to go into backcountry snowmobiling and you get introduced to that. We'll come to that at the end, and then we'll go deep dive into that. But talk to us about your snowboard career, because from what I understand, it's pretty darn amazing. So
Well, I was a semi-professional skier at the time. I got
okay,
skis from Rosignol and a bunch of crap from the U.S. ski team B stuff. If it didn't fit somebody and it was already given to them, I might get a pair of boots or whatever. And snowboarding had just come out. Terry Kidwell and Damian Sanders and a couple other people were Keith Kimmel would come to Donner Ski Ranch and they'd ride. And I was like, dude, that looks so rad. So I tried it. I tried it on some piece of crap board. And then I talked with Terry one day and I was like, dude, I really want to try it. And he was too cool or whatever and wouldn't give me one of his boards. So I got on one from Damian Sanders. And Damian's like, oh, here, bro, take it. You wear ski boots, just click in. So we did it. I made a couple passes. I was like, this is pretty cool. The next day, I was teaching snowboarding with skis on.
wow,
And so I'm like, well, I guess I better learn to snowboard. And so I spend every day training on it. Ended up giving away my skis. Never really skied that much after that. I did some telemarking because I got paid for it, and I skied because I got paid really well for it.
yeah,
But in my every waking moment, I would come in at lunch, take my ski boots, and loosen them up, grab my snowboard, and go back out and snowboard. And that was my passion. I got into competition in like my second or third year. Did some world competition, did world championships, did a couple different things. I did okay for a new guy. I was like 100 and I don't know. I was mid pack. I think I was 115th in one venue, and another one I was 120th and 130th out of about 250 people that came to
yeah,
Worlds, and it just progressed from there, and then I did a lot of regional competitions. I did some pro events, big air contests, and different things all over. But I wasn't that special niche at the very top, so I didn't get a lot of backing. I had sponsors, and I
yeah.
rode for many different snowboard companies and clothing companies, and all kinds of things. And then I got hurt and started coaching I think it was 1990 or 91.
Gotcha.
I started coaching for Cross M, a world renowned snowboard team, and Jerry Masterpool gave me some techniques for coaching. I never got paid, but so because of the pay thing, I said, screw you, I'm going to go start my own team. So I started Donner Summit Snowboard Team, and the thing was a hit. I just didn't know what to charge, and I felt bad because it seemed to me that all rich kids were the ones that were getting the advantages.
Yeah.
So I made my program cheap as hell, and I didn't make any money off it really. But people still complained about the price. But I was out there every single day and it was to pursue my career too because I kept competing for many years. I think I was I think five-time U.S. champion in alpine and overall events. I was never a freestyle specialist, but I was more of an alpine specialist. But I did
Yeah.
all the events, and I was okay at all of them. But I was really good at alpine,
Yeah.
and just loved it,
Yeah.
and made it a career.
That's awesome. So Kyle, with the level of experience that you had and the time that you spent on the snow, I think, for any of us who are that, deep into a sport or a passion like snowboarding, to some degree, it's inevitable that you're good, and especially as you cross over into sometimes, backcountry terrain, but also inbound terrain, you're going to run into avalanches someday, right? And, in
Yeah.
conversations with you, you've shared with me that you've lost a few friends over the years, but I know there's one specific story that you felt was, worthy of sharing on the show tonight to kind of just help remind everybody of kind of, part of it is the education piece of this and what people should be thinking about, whether you're skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling. It's always part of what we need to be thinking about, right? But you had an early experience with some friends. Actually, it sounds like inbounds at a ski
Oh
resort
yeah.
that you're going to share with us a little bit here tonight too. And why don't you take us back to folks there, and let's honor your friend who's passed and help share that story now.
Yeah, well, and at this ski resort, it's a small resort, and it's got a badass hill. It's got everything in it, cliffs. It's got everything, but it's a small hill, and it's kind of like Mount Baker, about one third the size of Mount Baker, or so. And they we snowboard these extreme areas a lot, and it went under new ownership, and they were closing sections here and there, and so through storms it wasn't getting ridden, so we were not breaking down the avalanche danger as it progressed. And one day we had a kind of a meager season going, and December, I want to say December 21st or 20th, it started dumping, and on Christmas Eve they opened, and that Palisades, this big gnarly area, has a couple 70 to 90 foot drops that I've dropped them. My friends have all dropped them, but it's right conditions is when you do it. And this was that day, in a sense, other than the avalanche danger because of what was built up above it. And longtime friends of mine were all there. I had my kids, and I said, you know what, I'm going to sit today out. We're not going to go. I actually loaned one of my avalanche beacons to a friend and gave another person who came by my house my other avalanche beacon and said, wear this thing, have it on. Today's the day. Cameron Beck and my buddy rocker, Steve Anderson, were on the hill, and they just opened it. It was like first run, and they charged diagonal across to get first tracks, and they cut right across this ridge that typically isn't a problem. The next bowl that they cut through always is a problem, and it can be a problem days afterwards. But if you ride it a lot, you break it down, and it shatters in small sections instead of large. This was the largest avalanche I've ever seen come from this area. It was at about a 6 or 7 foot crown, and Cameron came through and busted an air, and Rocker was right on his ass. And Rocker, and I trained Cameron from the time he was about 13. He showed up at my house one day, and so I had a lot of inspiration into him for his career. He became a pro. Rocker was never into the competition side of it or filming or anything. He was like, "Screw you guys! It's about this, about the soul of the sport." And I'd been riding with Rocker since 19, I want to say 80 something, 80, 88 maybe, 80, 87. And Rocker was right on Cameron's ass, and Cameron didn't, I don't even think he knew he really kicked loose the avalanche, but the trigger happened. Rocker got caught up in it. Nobody saw it. Most all the people that were there, maybe 30 people, were on above that section on the lift, still waiting to get off while they were ripping down because they were first chair. And Cameron ripped to the bottom, and our rule is first one to the bottom wins. Get back on the chair, fuck your friend. Sorry about that. Um, get back to the top and get your next run in before they get one. And Cameron's going up the lift and wondering where the hell Rocker is because he was right on his ass. And the avalanche cut loose. That's when he noticed the avalanche. And it had blown over the cliffs, opened up a crown inside of this bowl and across to the lift. And it went over the whole cliffs area, about 140 feet to the bunny hill after the cliff area and the landing zone. Blew out into the bunny hill and left about 3 to 4 feet of debris all the way across the bunny hill, and nobody could find Rocker. They kept the lifts running for a little bit, and then everybody gathered, and they were like, "Dude, we got to find Rocker. Let's find out what's going on." And the ski resort wasn't prepared for an avalanche. They didn't know what the hell to do. Somebody told the groomers to go out and relieve the bunny hill so they could keep skiing. Another resort got involved, Sugar Bowl, and they brought dogs, and people shut the hill down, got a head count.
It's a tough deal, buddy. Man,
Yeah.
just so you know, like as you've been sharing this, I didn't tell you I did it, but I've been sharing the picture here along the way too. I know you and I plan to
Oh,
share that
cool.
at some point, but as you've been telling that story, people have been able to see the picture as you've described it and go on there too. But man,
Yeah.
like, Kyle, I know, like, speaking from my own personal experiences, like, these are the kind of stories that ultimately we hope that by sharing these stories, we can help future stories like this, right? Like from happening. And,
100%.
like these kind of stories are the ones that, you know, ultimately are the ones that really hit people hard. And when they're listening to it, they can see the emotion in your face and your eyes as you've lost a friend. And, let me drop the picture there too, so people can kind of see me again here too as we talk through this. But sorry about that. Let me go back down here. There we go. But ultimately, like anything in life, adversity can be turned around and turned into something positive, right? And I think that's really what the focus of the show is tonight. Is we want to tell the story of why Kyle P. Franklin is so damn passionate about backcountry sledding, backcountry safety, educating others, and being here. I mean, we haven't even talked about it yet, but like you're a member of your local search and rescue. You've
Yeah.
been out this whole week helping search for a missing 16-year-old girl in your area as recent as today, like before the
Yeah.
show today. And, people like you, sir, are a rarity in this world that are willing to put yourself out there and just a man after my own heart, give, 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 because it makes a difference to those around them, right? And
Yeah.
it's crazy, but let's just take a moment though to recognize the loss that you had. I mean, what year was it that that accident happened again? Remind us.
I believe it was 2009. It was on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and so we're talking many, many years ago at this point, and it still hits you hard, right? Like when we lose those in our,
I can't even talk about it
yeah,
without.
it's crazy, but we want to honor your friend and the life that was lost, and just know that it wasn't in vain at this point because you have been able to carry the torch of helping educate others and help sharing the passion of love your life, right? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot. Let me describe my view of what I believe love your life is. I'm going to turn it back over to you to help go in deeper. But I'm wearing the shirt tonight, like the hat tonight too, right? I've got my shirt on, but I've got Kyle's hat on tonight. Is love your life, like you guys what Kyle has done with this, it's as much about backcountry safety and education as much as it about like mental health, right? Like,
Yep.
people, I've shared publicly in this show multiple times, and I'll do it again briefly, is when I was 10 years old, I lost a sister to suicide myself. And I think many, many of us in our lives, everybody who's watching this, I can almost guarantee you in some way, shape, or form has been touched by depression and suicide and tragedy in their lives. And humans like Kyle P. Franklin here are the ones who take this extremely seriously and just pour themselves into those around them, the community and whatnot too. And so, Kyle, if you're ready, if you've kind of gathered yourself, I'd love to have you share a little bit about, I'm sure this story is part of it, but like, what are the other things that have kind of motivated you around love your life, and like, where did the idea of love your life come from, and kind of talk us through kind of the journey of kind of to what it is today and what you're trying to do with it.
Well, I've kind of always lived the spirit of it that tomorrow may not be here. When I was a kid, I worried about nuclear warfare, and that was probably my strongest fear. That and Jaws. But the spirit has been there the whole time. I had a friend who mixed music. He was a snowboarder, and his wife got cancer at like 25 years old. And I met with them, I think, when she was 30 or 33 or something. And she spoke of this, love your life. And it was about you know, until she had cancer and she was threatened with death and absolutely out of her control, nothing in her hands to control it. Um, she partied. She did all kinds of stuff that she thought she was really enjoying her life and loving her life, and she realized that none of that stuff counts. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter um, what you've failed at or succeeded at in the past. It's what you do today, and the fact that today you're above ground, you're breathing, and you don't take your family, your relatives, your friends for granted. You need to embrace all those things that mean something to you, that literally, or not literally, but truly mean something to you, and embrace them and cherish that and take action on it. If you know you get up in the morning, maybe you got to go to work, maybe whatever. Put a certain spirit into that. Yes, I'm going to work, but after work, I get to go uh, throw discs at the frisbee disc place or play golf or whatever it is that you have a passion for. Keep that in your mind as a thing to thrive towards. And she ended up going through 4 bouts with cancer, went into remission so many times, and died at 30. I think
Wow.
she was either between 36 and 38 years old, but she had double mastectomy. They just couldn't, she was beyond healing at that point. And she never gave up all the way to the end. It was about that. Her and her friend got it tattooed on their arms, and we did a benefit at a tattoo place. And I was like, "You mind if I steal that logo, you know, Love Your Life, because I'd like to present that on my back to my children with their names on it, that they need to keep the spirit of loving their lives, that tomorrow is not a guarantee, um, as a remembrance, you know." And so I put it on my back. She said yes. I said great. And so I put it on my back, and I've developed it into loving your life around snowboarding and snowmobiling for me, because snowboarding kind of saved me, or snowmobiling kind of saved me in a way, because my kids weren't as excited about or passionate about snowboarding as I was. And so it kind of drew what took away from me my passion for it, because I couldn't share it with the ones I love. And I got a couple snowmobiles and really loved it again, because I got run over in the 80s by my snowmobile. I was driving a 1972 Polaris, and it had metal skis, and anyway, it ran me over on an
Yeah.
ice patch one time, and I spent 3 hours with a snowmobile on top of me out on the ski hill, and I said, screw that, I'll never buy another one of those again. I'll never blah 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 blah. And mountain sledding, Cameron Beck got into it. A bunch of people were getting into it. There were just, you know, Brett Rasmussen was out there. I was seeing the spirit of snowboarding that I loved in this. And so I started trying it. And the sleds I had were junk for mountain sledding. I mean, they were late 80s, early 90s mountain sleds, but they were not mountain sleds. Like, they didn't climb. They
Yeah.
had one paddles. Nina was going to buy a new sled, and I said, I like how much power your sled's got. I like the way it goes in the snow. I'm going to get one of those.
There you
So
go.
I got one, and I've never looked back. Like, I buy a new sled every year. I'm just stoked on it. I want to do what I did for snowboarding with teaching people about it, expanding the sport, really loving the sport, an outlet for your life.
Yeah.
I've found that snowmobiling, I'm thinking about it every day.
Yeah.
It's ticking in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I work all summer now so I can buy $30,000 worth of sleds so I can go snowmobiling next year for 2 weeks maybe. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't. You add the time up, it's about the equivalent of 2 weeks to a month of riding.
Yeah.
But it's worth it for me now.
Yeah.
And at one point it wasn't. The passion, it's all about the passion.
Yeah.
And the avalanche part was a big fear for me, because I understand that they dig trenches and triggers avalanches and all these things that added up to me to be dangerous for high angle riding. And I didn't realize at the time that there was so much fun to be had
Yeah.
below 30 degrees. Like snowboarding, if you
Absolutely.
rode anything lower than 30 degrees, you basically needed a tow rope or poles. Um, I didn't have a lot of fun below 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And with snowmobiling, I can party below 30 degrees.
Yeah.
I can party up above it, but
Well, and
you know,
just to kind of elaborate on the fact that your action as well as talk, like you're talking the talk, but you also walk the walk. Like I have personally been included in training classes that you've attended the last couple of years in a row, attending the driven events, and I've seen you. You've taken your area level 1, you've taken your area level 2, you've done companion rescue, you've done safer, you've done wilderness first aid, you've done Ride Rasmussen training, like you and Nina along your side, which is amazing.
yep.
Like, I look at you and I are the two luckiest guys in the world to have amazing ladies at our side that are willing to go share our passion with us. It's awesome to be
Yeah.
able to see that and to share that with you. Like, for those of you guys who don't know, I consider Kyle a very, very good friend. We've gotten to know each other over the last 4 years, and we've had the opportunity the last 2 years in a row to see each other on the snow and on the mountain and go through training together. And I'm grateful for your friendship and what's going on there. One thing I'll highlight and point out, it's something that it took me a long time to kind of articulate on my side, and I feel like you're living the same thing I am, and it's this, which is it doesn't matter, for snowmobiling is what we're talking about tonight, but what I've discovered is, it could be snowmobiling, it could be motorcycling, it could be jeeping, but, these action sports and these adventure sports that we go out and try to quote unquote live life to the fullest doing, part of the draw is the actual event and the work and the adrenaline rush that we get out of it and the excitement we get out of it. But for me, I've found that more of the draw is the fact that it's an unlock, it's a conduit to a community, right? It's the ability
Yep.
to connect with other people like yourself. Like I can honestly sit here and say, Kyle, that if I was a snowmobiler and went out snowmobiling just with me and a couple of friends, it would mean 1/10 of what it does to me today, knowing that I've got the ability to share it with people like yourself and others who I've been out on the snow with. Walking away from a week-long trip or a weekend ride and coming back to the office on Monday, going back to work, and just having those memories and that reflection of the sense of community and the engagement and the ability to kind of invest in each other and the time we get to spend with each other, it really does allow us to really build strong networks and connections and friendships with people. And at the same time, it allows us to unlock conversations around mental health with Love Your Life and, PTSD, depression. I know you've done work with All American Heroes Foundation as well as, a lot of other things that you've been able to do. And again, it's, twin brother, Kyle Frankland to John Farian over here, because, you're,
Right.
we're loving life and we're living large all at the same time. So.
100%. And that's, helping other people. It doesn't feel right to hoard it to myself. It doesn't, I
Yeah.
enjoy moments by myself, but I enjoy the group. Even if it's helping that person in the back that's struggling or whatever, I enjoy that as much as a rip and powder turn or dropping off of something or whatever. I'm not as extreme at snowmobiling as I was at snowboarding. Like
Yeah.
snowboarding, if it was almost inverted, like I rode over knuckles that you literally fell for 80 to 90
Wow.
feet just riding over it before you made contact with the snow again. And a lot of times it avalanched below me and I was landing above the avalanche or in it and ripping out of it. And that thrill as a youngster, and I would say youngster because I still did that stuff all the way up to about 35 or 38.
Yeah.
And that thrill has never left me. It felt like part of my soul was stolen from me when I blew my shoulders out. And
Well.
but I kept doing it. I kept charging. I kept hitting gnarly terrain and doing things. I just lowered my air level a bit. I think the longest jump I ever did was somewhere around 275 feet. Not
Wow.
a vertical drop, but an air over a hump on a hill, maybe 10 to 25 feet off the ground, and just soaring, landing in really steep terrain. I still have that passion in me for snowmobiling, but I know where my skill level is, and I know the risk level, and I don't recover from injuries nearly like I did in my 20s or 30s even. So I draw it back a little bit. So I love teaching people. I
Yeah.
love taking people out and showing them a little bit of what I can do, and
Yep.
then talking to them about how they can do it. And that
Yeah.
it's that camaraderie, the friendship throughout the U.S. and the world, because I've made friends in Finland and all over, and rekindled friendships from my snowboard career with a bunch of Europeans and
Yeah.
Japanese people that are now into snowmobiling who I snowboarded with in
That's awesome.
1980 something.
That's
It's
awesome.
absolutely bizarre. And now, you know, it is. It's about friendship. And you
Yeah.
named 5 people in the credits at the beginning that are friends of mine because of snowmobiling
Amen.
and the internet and
Yeah.
Facebook. And I love that.
Yeah.
And I
And
want to share that with other people that it's
yeah.
healthy.
And you know what you're describing is literally what I just experienced again yesterday. Like, you know, Edith and I went out for a Jeep trip, and again, it could have just been the two of us going out for a ride, but we invited a couple of friends with that had never ever been off-roading. They rode with us in the back seat, and throughout the day we let them both drive, and they had a blast and they had a ball. They actually at one point were talking about, well, maybe we'll get a Jeep at some point, you
Just
know, but
sold 2 Jeeps.
yeah, exactly, right. And so getting people into the sport, but just showing them that sense of community.
Yeah.
And then here's the crazy part is like my day job. You guys know I work at Microsoft and I support the GameStop account. And the new employee over at GameStop, I met him for lunch 2 weeks ago, and it turns out he showed up at lunch with a Jeep, and I'm like, you know, the old joke of like, did we just become best friends? Like, totally came
Yeah.
true because the second I saw he had a Jeep, but the funny part is he had a Jeep Sahara, which you guys know is maybe the more on-road version of the Jeeps that are out there versus my Rubicon. But he had never taken, he'd owned the Jeep for a couple of years. He had never taken the thing off-roading other than maybe a little bit on a gravel road with a little bit of snow or something. But
Yeah.
like
Mud puddles.
we had him legit rock crawling yesterday. By the end of the day, he was like confident enough to be able to do it. And the guy was on cloud nine, and he felt better about himself and his life, and like he had found a new sense of community. And it's so cool to be able to bring those kind of experiences to people. Again, to me, the jeeping, the snowmobiling, it's the conduit to connecting people and the relationships that are out there because you can share those
Exactly.
amazing passions. So
Well, and I think with the internet and cell phones and things, with texting and emailing and all that, we've lost a lot of personal contact. Like I remember as a kid dialing the phone to
yeah,
call my friends. And I remember actually you'd speak to an operator and you'd say, "Hey, I can't get through to them. Is there a problem?" And the operator would be like, "Let me connect you." And she'd be like, "No, their phone is disconnected or their phone is off the hook.
yeah,
It answered, but they're not there." You know,
yeah,
all that personal contact is what we've lost, I think, a bit in all the modern age. And this snowmobiling and the topic of it and the conduit, like you say, the connection brings people back together and gives us the ability to really communicate with people
it's amazing.
and get a feeling
Yeah,
like from the heart, that the passion and stuff. And that's part of the reason I'm pursuing Avalanche so heavily and driving my head into it so much of my physical. Um, I want to be at a high level education so that the things that I tell people, they know that I'm not just blowing wind up their ass. Because I've done avalanche and avalanche safety and avalanche prep at ski resorts for 40 years. I mean, since I was a kid, before I was even 18, they would send me up the hill with a couple other people to ski check the whole hill. So we'd go up and ski crack fracture lines and areas that were troublesome. And so I've got a great understanding of it and a deep knowledge of snow, but I don't have the education by the book or by other instructors
yeah,
to do it. And that's what I'm seeking. I want to have legit certifications from ARI uh, saying that I know what I'm talking about. And then I want to profess that to people that it is a risk, but it's not a risk that should stop your day of snowmobiling or snowboarding or whatever it is you're doing in the backcountry.
yeah,
It means that today's not the day to go up there. Maybe tomorrow is, but maybe not. But there's lots to do, and there's lots of areas, as long as you're aware of them, that you can do things safely. and there's still risk. The
Yeah.
trees are not going
Well,
away.
that's the great thing about
Tree
getting
wells.
getting that avalanche training that people are are looking for, right? Is a lot of people think it's like, oh man, I'm gonna learn about avalanches and then I'm gonna be like afraid of avalanches because I won't want to go out there anymore and ride because of the avalanche danger is high, right? And there's a little bit of truth to that, but the reality is once you get the depth of level of training, once you get into a level 1, a level 2, and you really start to understand what's going on, what it does is it just allows you to read the terrain and understand the terrain in a way to avoid the high risk areas that you're going to get yourself into trouble. And you can go, you can go out on a high avalanche danger day if you stay out of avalanche terrain. It's amazing, right? There's
It
meadows out
really
there,
is.
there's low angle slopes that you can still hit in the trees, and you can be very safe and even on a high avalanche danger day and have a great time. So
Well, the best of the best will always put themselves into places that maybe that wasn't the day, and we've seen it time and time again with people dying. I in inbound ski resorts, I've recovered, I believe, 4 or 5 bodies, four bodies
wow,
inbound at ski resorts from
that's
avalanche
so sad.
after they'd blasted, after it'd been skied, and then like we talk about in classes, is it doesn't matter if it's the 100th person, that angle is still there, and the trigger may just not have happened yet,
Yeah.
and then it does happen, and you deal with the repercussions. And the part of the avalanche training is to be able to know what to do when that happens. It's risk management. So if in the event of a failure, which is an avalanche, what do you do? And that's where we come in to show people this is a procedure to get through that. This is what you do. 911. You set up a plan, secure the area, make sure it's safe, dive into it with your beacon, doing a pattern till you get a signal, charge till you get within 10 meters. Then you're walking at 5 meters. And when you get to 5 meters, you drop to your knees and you creep in quickly,
Yeah.
but accurately. And then you pinpoint. There's steps to everything. And the risk is much uh, the same, but the outcome is completely different, because if you're able to read the terrain, you know that there's hang fire up above you. Go around that area, pick a different
Yeah.
path, take a ridge line that maybe the wind blew the snow from, that's still solid. Just avoid that steep terrain or whatever, but it actually opens up more channels for snowmobiling and backcountry stuff, because you now know where the risks are, and if you dig pits you can predict snow to
Yep.
some extent.
Yeah.
It's not an engineered product, so
Yeah.
there's no fixed table. Okay, today it's 2 feet and the moisture content is this, and it's all good and we can go.
Yeah.
It's not like that. So air temperature, wind, fresh snow, really old snow causes a different risk. And so by digging and making standards, you kind of take a lot of the guesswork out of it, and you can feel more confident about going into an area. It doesn't mean you drop your guard.
Yeah.
It just means that you have confidence that today is the day to go hit that chute, or you wait till spring when you know that the base is solid and it's hitting the rocks
Yeah.
and bonded, and then you worry about little slough slides on the top when they heat up.
Lots of
But
stuff to learn in the avalanche training. So
oh,
amazing
it's
stuff. Yeah.
endless. I will never stop learning.
Yep.
I'm in this for life. I
Cool.
plan to be 80 years old and professing it to young kids, and they're going to go, that old, he knows what he's talking about, maybe.
Very good. Very good. Well, Kyle, let's start to go lean towards wrapping this up here, and I think we've got a lot of comments and chat going on in the chat here around heydays, right? And so some people are interacting with each other. They're asking, I think you and I, whether we're going to heydays, and so let me know, what's your answer? Are you going to be down at heydays here in a couple of weeks in September?
After I get off the screen here, I am going to go into the internet, the world of the web, and buy the plane tickets to Minnesota.
Yep.
And John, I need you to send me the link to that town where you were talking about the hotel. Don't
Gotcha.
say it on the air because I don't want somebody booking my room.
Perfect,
But
perfect. Yeah, I've still
I'm
got
going
the
to
room
try and
reserved, so if you need to, you can have my reservations because I think I'm going to be camping on site now. So,
I'll let you sleep on my couch.
okay, we'll just
I'm just
we'll just get a big bed. We'll share. So,
kidding. Yeah. Um,
So you'll be
I'm
at
I'm
Heydays. Are you gonna be there
I'm
like
gonna fly
what
in on
days?
Friday night. I'm
Friday?
gonna try and fly in on Friday night or Friday afternoon and be there all day Saturday, and either I'll leave Saturday night or sometime Sunday,
Gotcha.
because we're flying to Costa Rica shortly after that. Cameron
Perfect.
Beck, uh, Cameron Brapp, as he is on Instagram, I
Yep,
believe.
yep.
He's not having a baby, but his wife is. And so we're going to watch their house and their dog and kind of take care of some of the rental stuff in Costa Rica. And they're going to the capital for a month to have the baby naturally, or maybe, and then spend 3 weeks there taking care of all the legal documents for the baby, because it'll become a U.S. citizen and a Costa Rican citizen
Gotcha.
and blah blah blah. But they want to make sure things go right, and that way they're close to a major hospital, because where they live is out in the sticks, so to
Yeah, yeah.
speak, next to the
Very
ocean.
good, very good. So I also
Yeah.
will be at Heyday. So I'm flying, or I'm going to be driving in. I'm planning to arrive sometime midday Friday. I'll be there all weekend, Saturday all day, and then probably the morning of Sunday, and then we'll head out around noon on Sunday and start heading back. But we're going to road trip it. Actually, myself and one of the guys in the chat here, and Eric Nelson, he'll be joining me. I still got one or two open seats. I've got to reach out to a couple of folks who I still owe a phone call back to, but we're going to try to get 3 or 4 folks there. I'll probably, if you guys are coming to Heydays and you watch for me, I'll probably be helping volunteer at one of the gates on Friday or on Saturday morning when the gates open. I usually stick around and do a little volunteering and get the wristbands on folks, take some of the money, all that kind of stuff. So, but Kyle, let's wrap this up with letting people know kind of where they can find you. Do you have like Facebook pages, Instagram pages, websites, whatever you got? Like, let people know how they can get a hold of you. And if you have anybody you want to thank, also, let's just wrap that right in. If you have any sponsors, or anybody else you want to say thank you to, feel free to speak up now.
Well, my email is kpfconst@yahoo.com, and it's Kyle P. Frankland is my name on Facebook, and then it's Kyle P. Frankland Mentor. And I also have Love Your Life Backcountry linked to that. I'm uh, I'm really passionate about taking people out and having people come to Tahoe and discover the snow. We have amazing terrain. Castle X Clothing has been really, really good to me over the years. And this year I get a ride with them. So they're setting me
Very
up
nice.
with clothes this year. And I had kind of a great deal going with a shop locally. And I don't know where that's going. You know, things have kind of up in the air. I have no idea. I guess I'm not as much value to him as I see that I am to him. Um, but Ski-Doo has just, the reliability of the sleds that we're riding are just amazing. And Brett Rasmussen's friendship has really changed my life. I mean,
Very nice.
you're a mentor of mine. Brett Rasmussen has a level head just like you. He does things with conviction and with honesty and integrity, and that him and I really clicked. And that's what I'm looking for in this whole sport, is people that are honest, who do what they say and say what they do. You know what I mean? The elephant's faithful 100%, all that stuff. I think it's important that we get great relationships. And
Perfect.
I'm grateful for you as a mentor, John. Thank you very much for being my friend.
My pleasure,
I
sir. My pleasure. And back at
I
you. So I
appreciate
very
it.
much appreciate the friendship of you and Nina as well. Edith and I
I
adore you
love you,
guys.
Edith.
Yeah, she's in the other room, but she's watching. I'm sure. I'm sure. So, and as a reminder, you guys, like we got the new shirts. Check it out. You can see it's got the live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, make a difference to others, live large. That's what it's all about. You
I'm
guys can.
going to that website afterwards too.
Yeah, yeah. So the website link is in the show notes there. You can check it out. It's livelargeitemorder.com. And everybody, as I wrap up every show, it's always God bless you and live large. And we'll add to it, love your life.
Yeah, and I have T-shirts available. Thank you, everybody. I
All
love
right.
you, John.
Ciao. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.